Gunsmoke fans have spent decades wondering why Marshal Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty never made it official. The chemistry was undeniable, the connection was deep, yet the show never let their relationship fully blossom. Was it creative choice, network pressure, or something else entirely? Even after all these years, the question still lingers, and the truth might surprise you. It was a harsh truth, you might say. Gunsmoke wasn't just another Western. It was a groundbreaking series that ran for 20 years, shaping television history. It introduced audiences to Dodge City, where law and order were upheld by the fearless Marshal Dillon. But while he faced countless outlaws, one mystery remained unsolved: his relationship with the bold and beautiful Miss Kitty. Fans hoped, speculated, and even demanded answers. So, why didn't Matt and Kitty ever take that next step? Was it Hollywood politics? A storytelling strategy? Or something the actors themselves had a hand in? Stay tuned, because the real story is more intriguing than you might think. In 1952, Gunsmoke first hit the airwaves as a radio drama, bringing the rough-and-tumble world of Dodge City into American homes. It was a gritty, action-packed series that set itself apart from other westerns with its realistic characters and intense storytelling. William Conrad voiced the rugged lawman, Marshal Matt Dillon, setting the stage for what would become one of the most iconic roles in television history. The radio show became an instant hit, and just a few years later, CBS decided to take it to the next level, bringing Gunsmoke to television. When it came time to cast the TV version of Gunsmoke, the search for the perfect Matt Dillon was no easy task. The role needed a man who could command respect, a figure who could be both the law and the legend of the Wild West. CBS originally considered keeping William Conrad, the voice of Dillon on radio, but they felt he didn't fit the look they had in mind. They wanted someone who could embody the physicality of the role, a towering presence who could impose order with just a glance. That's when John Wayne, Hollywood's biggest Western star at the time, stepped in with a suggestion. He pointed CBS toward a young actor he believed was perfect for the job: James Arness. At 6 feet 7 inches tall, Arness had the commanding presence CBS wanted, and with his rugged looks and quiet strength, he seemed born to play a frontier lawman. But there was just one problem. Arness wasn't sure he wanted the role. At the time, television was still seen as a step down from film, and Arness had already built a solid career in movies, even starring in sci-fi classics like The Thing from Another World. But with encouragement from John Wayne, he decided to take the leap. When CBS auditioned him alongside 25 other actors, including Raymond Burr, it was clear: Arness was the perfect Marshal Dillon. On September 10, 1955, Gunsmoke premiered, bringing Dodge City and its unforgettable characters to television screens across America. The transition from radio to TV was seamless, and the show quickly became a hit, drawing millions of viewers who tuned in each week to watch Dillon uphold justice in the untamed frontier. But no Western town was complete without a saloon, and Dodge City had the Long Branch, run by none other than Miss Kitty Russell. When Amanda Blake was cast as the feisty, no-nonsense saloon owner, she had no idea the role would define her career. At just 26 years old, she was thrilled to join the series, eager to bring her own flair to the character. Miss Kitty was unlike most female characters in Westerns at the time. She wasn't a damsel in distress or a traditional love interest. She was tough, independent, and a respected businesswoman who held her own in a town full of cowboys and outlaws. From the very beginning, there was a clear connection between Kitty and Marshal Dillon, even if the show never explicitly defined their relationship. Blake threw herself into the role, embracing the challenge of playing a woman who was both strong and compassionate. and her chemistry with James Arness was undeniable. Off-screen, the two actors had a warm friendship that made their on-screen dynamic feel even more natural. As Gunsmoke continued to grow in popularity, it became clear that this was no ordinary TV show. What started as a simple adaptation of a radio drama had transformed into one of the most beloved westerns of all time. Week after week, audiences tuned in to see Marshal Dillon face new threats, all while wondering if he and Miss Kitty would ever take their relationship to the next level. Little did they know, the answer to that question was more complicated than they ever expected. From the very first episode, there was something special between Marshal Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty Russell. The way they looked at each other, the easy banter, the moments of unspoken understanding, fans could tell there was more than just friendship between them. Week after week, their interactions hinted at a deeper connection, but no matter how much audiences hoped for romance, it never fully materialized. The chemistry was undeniable. Kitty was strong, smart, and fiercely independent, running the Long Branch Saloon with a sharp wit and an even sharper sense of business. Matt, on the other hand, was the ultimate lawman, calm, steady, and always focused on keeping Dodge City safe. The two of them complemented each other perfectly, and yet, no matter how close they got, the show never took their relationship to the next level. It wasn't for lack of moments. Over the years, viewers were treated to plenty of teasing, warm embraces, and even an arm around the shoulder here and there. Kitty and Matt were often seen walking side by side, sharing knowing glances and engaging in flirty back and forths that made it clear there was something real between them. But despite all the hints, Gunsmoke never gave fans what they were waiting for. Not a single kiss, no romantic declarations, nothing that could officially confirm what everyone already knew. So, why was that? Why did Gunsmoke, a show that ran for 2 decades, never allow its two most beloved characters to explore their relationship? One possible explanation lies in the show's core themes. Unlike many other TV westerns of the time, Gunsmoke wasn't just about shootouts and adventure. It was a serious drama that focused on law, justice, and survival. The writers wanted to keep the emphasis on Dodge City as a dangerous place, where every day was a fight to maintain order. In their eyes, Matt Dillon wasn't just a man. He was a symbol of law and authority. He couldn't afford distractions, and love, no matter how compelling, was seen as just that. Then there was the issue of Matt's job. As a marshal, he lived in a world of constant danger. Outlaws, drifters, and troublemakers came and went, but Matt had to remain steady, always prepared for the next threat. A wife, a family, or even an official romantic attachment could have put a target on Kitty's back. If she was recognized as Matt Dillon's woman, she might have been used against him. Some fans believed this was an intentional choice by the writers to suggest that Matt was protecting Kitty by keeping their relationship undefined. But that wasn't the only reason. The producers of Gunsmoke were well aware of their audience, and they believed that a romance between Matt and Kitty might change the show's dynamic in a way that viewers wouldn't accept. They worried that by making their relationship official, they would shift the focus from action and adventure to romance. Westerns, especially in the 1950s and 60s, weren't expected to revolve around love stories. They were meant to be about gunfights, moral dilemmas, and the struggle between right and wrong. A committed relationship between Matt and Kitty might have softened the show's tone too much. That's not to say Gunsmoke was completely devoid of romance. There were episodes where Matt showed interest in other women, and Kitty too had her moments with other men, but those storylines never lasted. No matter what, the two always seemed to find their way back to each other, even if it was never explicitly stated. Some viewers have speculated that keeping their relationship unresolved was actually a strategic move. By never fully committing, the show maintained a level of tension that kept audiences engaged. The will they won't they dynamic created intrigue and ensured that fans kept tuning in, hoping that maybe, just maybe, something would finally happen between them. And yet, despite all the speculation, both James Arness and Amanda Blake were clear on one thing. The decision wasn't up to them. It was made by the producers, who believed that the show worked better when Matt and Kitty's relationship remained undefined. Arness later admitted that in many ways, this approach might have been the right one, even if fans didn't always agree. But that didn't stop viewers from wondering. Decades after the show ended, the debate still continues. Should Matt and Kitty have gotten together? Would it have made the show better? Or would it have changed the dynamic too much? The mystery of their relationship remains one of the greatest unresolved questions in television history. And while Gunsmoke never gave fans the closure they wanted, one thing is certain: Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty's connection was real. And that's why, even after all these years, people are still talking about it. Over the years, Gunsmoke fans never stopped asking, why didn't Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty ever make their relationship official? It wasn't just speculation from viewers. James Arness and Amanda Blake were well aware of the curiosity surrounding their characters. And while they had their own thoughts on the matter, they both made it clear that the decision to keep their relationship ambiguous came from the top. James Arness, in his autobiography, directly addressed the long-standing question. He explained that the producers of Gunsmoke deliberately kept Matt and Kitty's relationship subtle. According to him, they believed that making things too obvious, or outright confirming a romance, would take away from the show's Western appeal. Gunsmoke wasn't a soap opera, and the writers wanted to maintain a sense of mystery and intrigue around its characters. By keeping Matt and Kitty's connection unspoken, they allowed viewers to interpret it however they wanted. Amanda Blake also weighed in on the topic, revealing that she always understood why Gunsmoke avoided romance. In her eyes, Westerns weren't about love stories, they were about survival, justice, and the harsh realities of frontier life. She felt that if Matt and Kitty's relationship had been spelled out too clearly, it might have distracted from the show's core themes. Instead, it was left up to the audience to fill in the blanks. Blake even joked that in classic Westerns, cowboys always seemed to love their horses more than they loved women, and Gunsmoke wasn't about to break that tradition. Still, the writers knew exactly what they were doing when it came to keeping fans guessing. While they never explicitly stated that Matt and Kitty were together, they sprinkled enough hints throughout the series to suggest that their bond went beyond friendship. Their interactions were laced with subtle moments, lingering looks, inside jokes, and a sense of trust that went deeper than words. Kitty wasn't just another resident of Dodge City. She was someone Matt relied on, someone he could always turn to. According to Gunsmoke writer Jim Burns, there was an unspoken deal when it came to Matt and Kitty's relationship. While the show never showed anything overt, there was an understanding that after closing time at the Long Branch Saloon, Matt would often walk Kitty upstairs. The audience never saw what happened after that, but it was implied. Burns recalled that this was a deliberate choice by the writing team. They didn't want to make the relationship too obvious, but they also didn't want to deny it outright. This careful balancing act is what kept viewers intrigued for 19 seasons. If Matt and Kitty had ever officially become a couple, it might have changed the entire dynamic of the show. Instead, their relationship remained one of television's greatest unsolved mysteries, a connection that existed somewhere between reality and imagination. Even today, fans continue to debate what really happened between Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty. Were they secretly together the entire time? Or was their relationship simply one of deep friendship and unspoken love? No matter the answer, their bond remains one of the most enduring aspects of Gunsmoke, proving that sometimes what isn't said is just as powerful as what is. While Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty never made their relationship official, Gunsmoke certainly gave fans plenty of close calls. Over the years, both characters had moments where it seemed like they might move on, only for fate, or the writers, to pull them back into their familiar dynamic. The show often tested their bond, introducing new romantic interests who, for a brief time, appeared to threaten their unspoken connection. For Kitty, there were several moments when she nearly walked away from Dodge City and the life she had built. One of the most memorable examples came in the episode Kitty's Outlaw. In this storyline, an old flame from Kitty's past returns, stirring up memories and emotions she had long buried. He's charming, familiar, and offers her a life away from the unpredictable dangers of Dodge City. For the first time, viewers saw Kitty truly question her place in the town and whether waiting for something more with Matt was worth it. But in the end, her loyalty to Dodge, and perhaps to Matt, kept her from leaving. Another close call came in The Way It Is, where Kitty meets a man who treats her with the kind of attention and devotion that Matt never quite manages. Unlike the Marshal, this man doesn't keep her at arm's length, and for a moment, it seems like she might finally allow herself to be loved in a way she never had before. But something holds her back. Maybe it's Matt. Maybe it's her sense of independence. Or maybe, deep down, she knows that leaving Dodge would mean leaving behind more than just a town. But one of the biggest shakeups in their relationship happened in the badge. After years of standing by Matt, watching him risk his life over and over, Kitty finally reaches a breaking point. She sees him take yet another bullet, his 11th by that point, and realizes she can't go through it anymore. In a rare moment of clarity, she decides it's time to move on. She puts the Long Branch Saloon up for sale, packs her things, and prepares to leave Dodge City behind for good. But as always, something keeps her there. Even when she tries to move forward, the pull of her life with Matt, however undefined it may be, always seems stronger. Matt wasn't immune to temptation either. Though he was famously reserved when it came to matters of the heart, there were a few occasions when he appeared to let his guard down. One of the most significant examples came in 1973 when Matt lost his memory and found himself in the care of a woman played by actress Michael Learned. In this rare storyline, Matt allowed himself to form a genuine attachment, even sharing a kiss, something he never did with Kitty on screen. It was a moment that stood out in the series, not just because of the romance, but because it showed a different side of Matt Dillon, a man who, without the weight of his past, was capable of letting someone in. But, as expected, when he regained his memory, his priorities shifted back to duty, and he returned to Dodge, leaving the possibility of love behind once again. Even with all these moments, these what-ifs, Matt and Kitty always found their way back to each other. Every time an outsider entered their lives, it only reinforced what had always been true. No one else quite fit the way they did. And yet, no matter how many times their relationship was tested, the show never let them cross that final line. Whether it was fate, stubbornness, or simply the way the writers wanted it, Matt and Kitty's story was destined to remain unfinished. Perhaps that's what made their dynamic so compelling. If they had ever fully committed, would it have changed the essence of Gunsmoke? Would the tension that kept viewers invested have faded? In the end, every close call only served to highlight the one truth that never changed. No matter where they went or who they met, there was only one real home for both of them. And that was Dodge City, side by side, whether they admitted it or not. For nearly 2 decades, Gunsmoke kept audiences captivated with the bond between Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty. Their relationship had all the elements of a great love story: loyalty, deep connection, and years of shared history. But despite the lingering glances and unspoken promises, the show never allowed them to take that final step. Why? The answer lies behind the scenes, where the producers had a clear vision for the show and were determined to keep it that way. From the very beginning, the creators of Gunsmoke made a conscious decision to keep romance on the back burner. The show was built on themes of law, justice, and survival in the Old West. They believed that introducing a formal romance between Matt and Kitty could weaken the series' rugged appeal. At its core, Gunsmoke was about a lone lawman holding the line between order and chaos. Settling down or becoming romantically entangled would have changed the essence of who Matt Dillon was: a steadfast protector of Dodge City, committed first and foremost to his duty. There was also the concern that taking the mystery out of Matt and Kitty's relationship might diminish what made it so compelling in the first place. Their dynamic thrived on the tension between what was said and what was left unsaid. The teasing, the loyalty, the subtle moments of affection. All of it kept audiences engaged, wondering if something more might ever happen. The moment they officially became a couple, that tension would be gone. The producers feared that without it, the audience might lose interest. Another factor was the show's audience. Gunsmoke appealed to a wide range of viewers, from families to dedicated Western fans. At the time, many television Westerns avoided romantic subplots because they weren't considered essential to the genre. The focus was on action, morality, and survival. While hints of romance could add depth, too much of it was seen as a distraction. The producers worried that leaning too heavily into Matt and Kitty's relationship might alienate viewers who tuned in for the show's traditional Western storytelling. But while the decision to keep their romance ambiguous was deliberate, it wasn't always easy, especially for Amanda Blake. By the 1970s, she had spent nearly 2 decades playing Miss Kitty, and she had her own frustrations with how the character was handled. Blake had always been protective of Kitty's image. She saw her as more than just the saloon owner. She was a strong, independent woman who had carved out a place for herself in a world dominated by men. But as the years went on, she grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of development in her character's relationship with Matt. She wanted Kitty to evolve, to have new storylines that went beyond the occasional love interest or close call. Behind the scenes, Blake also found herself at odds with producer John Mantley. One of their biggest conflicts revolved around something as simple as wardrobe. Miss Kitty had always been portrayed as sophisticated and stylish, and Blake believed that as the show progressed, her wardrobe should reflect that. But Mantley refused to allocate any budget for new costumes, insisting that what she had was good enough. For Blake, it was the final straw. After nearly 20 years on the show, she decided it was time to move on. In 1974, she officially left Gunsmoke, walking away from the role that had defined her career. Mantley later admitted that letting her go was one of the biggest mistakes he ever made. Without Kitty, Gunsmoke was never quite the same. The show continued for one more season, but the absence of the Long Branch's fiery redhead was deeply felt. The relationship that had been at the heart of the series, the one that had kept audiences invested for so many years, was gone. Looking back, it's clear that the decision to keep Matt and Kitty's romance unresolved was a deliberate creative choice. The producers believed that mystery and subtlety were more powerful than outright confirmation. And in many ways, they may have been right. Decades later, fans are still talking about them, still wondering what might have been. Maybe that's the real reason their story has endured for so long. Sometimes, the love that's never fully realized is the one that stays with us the longest. For 20 years, Gunsmoke reigned as the ultimate Western drama, setting the standard for all that followed. It was more than just a television show. It was a cultural phenomenon, a glimpse into the raw and rugged life of the Old West. What started as a simple radio drama in 1952 became one of the most influential and longest-running TV series in history. Millions tuned in each week, watching Marshal Matt Dillon bring justice to Dodge City, while the enigmatic relationship between him and Miss Kitty kept audiences invested year after year. Even after the series ended in 1975, its legacy only grew. Reruns introduced new generations to the show, proving that its storytelling and characters stood the test of time. And while Gunsmoke may have ended, the careers of its cast members continued in different directions. James Arness remained deeply connected to the Western genre. Though Gunsmoke had made him a household name, he wasn't ready to leave the frontier behind. In 1976, he starred in How the West Was Won, a critically acclaimed miniseries that once again placed him in the saddle. Then, in the early 80s, he stepped into a different role, trading his cowboy hat for a badge in McLean's Law, a police drama where he played a tough but fair detective. Despite these new projects, Arness was, and always would be, best known as Marshal Matt Dillon. Amanda Blake, on the other hand, shifted her focus to causes that were close to her heart. After leaving Gunsmoke, she became an outspoken animal rights activist, dedicating her time and resources to wildlife conservation. She was instrumental in founding the Performing Animal Welfare Society, an organization committed to rescuing and protecting abused and neglected animals. She also worked with the Arizona Animal Welfare League and helped raise awareness about the importance of protecting endangered species. Her passion for animals became her true legacy, one that extended far beyond the saloon doors of the Long Branch. But for fans of Gunsmoke, there was still one moment left that would bring them back together again. In 1987, a decade after the show had ended, James Arness and Amanda Blake reunited for Gunsmoke, Return to Dodge. The TV movie brought Matt Dillon back to the screen, and more importantly, it brought Kitty Russell back to Dodge City. It was a long-awaited moment for fans who had spent years wondering what had become of their favorite characters. For one last time, Arness and Blake stepped into their iconic roles, giving viewers a final glimpse into the world they had created together. But even with their reunion, the question remained: was it better that Matt and Kitty never officially became a couple? Would Gunsmoke have had the same impact if their relationship had been fully explored? In many ways, their unresolved love story became one of television's greatest mysteries. By never defining what they truly meant to each other, the show allowed fans to create their own interpretations. Some believe that Matt and Kitty's connection was deeper than words, existing in a space where love didn't need to be spoken. Others think that the producers missed an opportunity to give viewers the closure they wanted. Yet, perhaps that very lack of resolution is what made their relationship so powerful. If they had been together, married, or had a clear romance, would fans still be talking about them decades later? The unanswered questions, the unspoken moments, the lingering glances, those were the things that made their bond unforgettable. And that's the magic of Gunsmoke. It didn't just tell stories, it created legends. It captured the spirit of the West, the weight of duty, and the sacrifices that came with it. And at the heart of it all were two characters who never needed to say, "I love you," for audiences to know that, in some way, they always had. Even now, all these years later, the debate continues. What if Matt and Kitty had made it official? Would it have changed the show's legacy? Maybe. But one thing is certain. Gunsmoke left behind something few shows ever do: a sense of longing. a story unfinished, and characters who still live on in the hearts of those who watched. And in the end, maybe that's the greatest love story of all. So, what do you think? After 20 years of shared glances, loyalty, and unspoken words, should Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty have finally made it official? Or was their unresolved relationship exactly what kept Gunsmoke so compelling? Did the mystery make it better? Or did the show miss its chance to give fans the ending they wanted? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the writers made the right choice? Or should Matt and Kitty have ridden off into the sunset together? And if you love deep dives into classic Hollywood stories, don't forget to subscribe. We've got more behind-the-scenes stories, legendary TV moments, and the untold truths of the stars you grew up watching. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.